talking about burnout with life itself and like, what are the things that when you really possibly over-identify with your job, like, and you start to feel a sense of shame? Well, if you really, really identify on a personal level with your job and you start to feel a sense of shame around it, it's very, very difficult to not let that interfere with the rest of your life, right? Because now this is something that's triggering how you feel about who you are on a fundamental, like, identity level.
Hello, and welcome to Stray Kids, the Megaverse YouTube version. My name is Lullaby B. I am a therapist and clinical social worker, and this is my new standard YouTube introduction. You see, ever since I started streaming on Twitch, I've become very, very bad at remembering to do any sort of basic introduction for the when I transfer the recordings from Twitch to YouTube. So now I am putting in this rote introduction. Please watch it at least once. You don't need to watch it more than once, though. Like I said, my name is Lullaby B. First of all, and very importantly, if you happen to be one of my clients and you have found me, don't watch my K-pop content. Please don't watch my K-pop content. If you feel a deep and overwhelming need to watch my K-pop content, please talk to me first so that we can make sure that it is a clinically not inappropriate decision for you. Second of all, if you're watching my K-pop content and somehow you figure out who I am, which would probably not be that difficult, but you do so, please don't request me to be your therapist. That would be an inappropriate introduction to a therapist. Those disclaimers aside, if you're watching this, you are probably a number of videos into a reaction series, probably the Two Kids Room reaction series. I don't know how long this introduction is going to last, whether it's going to last beyond that or not. So I guess, I don't know. But if you are somewhere in a series of reaction videos from me, I might recommend going back to the beginning of the series, or at least watching episodes of the same people of whatever this episode is. I talk about a lot of stuff and I refer back to a lot of things because, as you notice, this is very long-form content. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to, but there might be certain things that are very confusing or don't make sense to you if you haven't seen any of my prior content. Another disclaimer, I am not making this content for stray kids. If for some really bizarre reason you happen to be a stray kid or happen to be somebody who feels very, very protective about how we talk about or refer to stray kids or think about them, this is going to be a lot of me analyzing words, relationships, behaviors, and trying really, really hard not to make assumptions about like inner workings of anyone's mind or like doing psychodynamic analysis or anything like that, but it might still be uncomfortable. So my recommendation is that if you're watching this and you're just uncomfortable and all you are is uncomfortable, don't. But if you're watching this and you are both uncomfortable but also interested or also fascinated by something, maybe it indicates a place for growth and opportunity to learn a little bit more, in which case maybe interact with it on a small scale, a reasonable scale for whatever your comfort level is. I bring up in these series a lot of potentially triggering, potentially complex conversations. And I don't really shy away from a lot of things, though I do try to put appropriate content warnings if something really feels like it gets to a point of potentially like being really triggering as a surprise to people. But overall, this is an analysis of a lot of things that might be difficult to experience. So take your time if you need to take your time. But yes, other than that, most of this is educational content, leveraging and using media that is well known and understood. As I said, on one of my very, 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 very first reaction videos, what I'm doing a lot of is saying, if I were in the place of a therapist, these are the questions I would have about this situation, and maybe some of the things I would recommend in somebody seeking assessment, diagnosis, or talking further to a therapist if they're experiencing something similar. So this is a lot about what you as Stay might relate to in the kids and how that might be beneficial for you. I'm really, really, really honored that a number of people have told me that my series has helped convince them to seek therapeutic services or diagnostics themselves, or they've really discovered a lot about themselves or other people watching this, and that's really why I'm doing this. So I don't want anybody to be confused in me in thinking that I'm trying to say that anybody is that I'm trying to diagnose people for the sake of entertainment. I'm trying to identify traits that people might relate to in order to be an educational resource for them. That all being said, this is free educational resources. If my content is helpful for you, you could subscribe on Twitch. I'd really appreciate a subscription here because I can't monetize until I have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. You can also support my Supercast if you would like to set up a monthly recurring type of Patreon-esque thing. Overall, I really, really try not to paywall like any of my content, so I don't have a lot of like special things for people who give me money over people who don't, because I really don't want to paywall content. But if you do decide to give me money and you have thoughts about what could be useful for supporters, you're always free to let me know. And with that, I do believe I've said everything that I need to say. Love you. Thank you so much, Stay. And let's get on with whatever this video is.
I don't know. We're working on it. I will make a mental model of Lino if it's the last goddamn thing I do. I will make a mental model that feels consistent. I'm so dedicated to this cause. I need to move my legs. This is not cooperative. You don't have to apologize for being the one chatting. It's nice. I like that there's a chat. People can chat and ask questions and say things. That's why I'm on Twitch, so that people can say things. And then I can respond. And that's great. Because I keep like meaning to respond to YouTube comments, and it's really sweet. I love responding to YouTube comments. Well, I want to love responding to YouTube comments, but like I'm so bad at getting around to it. I have 3 YouTube comments that I want to make videos about. And it's just sitting on my to-do list. Do you know how many supposedly short form, and by when I say short form, we all know I mean 15-minute videos I have on my to make list? I have so many. So, you know, if I can do some while I'm recording, that just makes life easier. Maybe. That's the argument I'm making, at least. Okay, Lino and IN. What do I know about Lino and IN's episode? I know that Lino at some point says that IN is maybe the only part of the Maknae line that he's not afraid would, like, get scammed. I think that's what I know. I think everything else I know about them, I know from their other 2 kids' rooms. That's what I've got.
이거는 최근이네. 이건 기억나지? 아 이거 이때 브라질 때구나. 남미에서 했던 앨범이. 교정기다. 그 양승이고? 아 좋아가지고. 이거 저같이 1층에서 찍었던 걸로 기억하는데 여우와 토끼에 네, 뭐 그런 릴스를 찍었던 것 같아요. 이건 내가 봤을 때 칼을 바꿔야 될 것 같아. 두드려야 될 것 같아. 내가 니 같지가 않아. 생긴 것만 니 같고. 그 형이 얼음이었나? 그거 제일 기억나는. 그게 약간
I don't think I know this one.
회자되는 그 명대사잖아. 가장 기억에 나는 것은.
돈가 많이 쓰이더라고요. 그래서 막 펜스 할때 뭐 형이 불편해 이런 거 해달라 그래가지고 그런 거 했는데 그 후에 제가 했던 말이 없을 줄은
I don't know that one. It's probably from Alive, I guess. I have not gone down the live,
다시 오고.
or maybe it's from an early Two Kids room. I don't know.
아 깜짝이야. 아 깜짝이야. 좋은데요? 예. 이런 케이크가 준비되어 있네.
나 먹어. 난 딸기 아이스크림 먹고 왔어.
딸기 아이스크림 먹었어.
The one piece of cake is wild.
나만 먹을 거야.
It's so, like, it looks like a prop. Like, it basically is. It's so small. The toy car is bigger. This has nothing to do with what I'm supposed to be doing in this reaction, but, like, it looks like dollhouse cake. I don't know why I'm absolutely losing it at this cake, but I am. Maybe it's just how big the room is compared to how small the cake is. It doesn't feel like a real snack.
내가 해보고 싶은 거 있어. 뭐 투어를 다니면서.
What? Two people in two kids' rooms, like sitting on different pieces of furniture next to each other? That's wild.
아리랑이라는 음식들이 되게 많다. 오. 예, 한식당 이름이 아리랑인 곳이 되게 많아.
오, 나도 했던 거 같긴 해.
그러니까 이 투어 하면서 가끔씩 잡은 거야.
I hope that's the same fly that Felix tries to hit. Like, I hope that it's not that there's just a billion flies here that they keep trying to hit with shoes, but it's the same fucking fly, and I want, like, an edit of POV, you're that fly, who they keep trying to throw shoes at.
아리랑 그 식당을 투어 가는 곳마다
투어 가는 곳마다 아이랑
헤매도 안 하고
I love their food special interest.
아리랑이 있다.
맞아. 한동안 좀 갔던 거 같아.
내가 그 영국 갔을 때 갔던 식당이 아리랑이었는데
내 생각 많이 났겠네?
그런 생각해서 진짜 아리랑은 실패가 없었어. 그래? 야 우리도 실패가 없다는 거야. 오, 남미에서도 아리랑
있었어, 남도?
맛있어. 진짜 맛있어.
나 그동안 형태 먹었을 때 맞아. 여기 수업도 막 다니잖아.
수업 다니고 뭐 영어 수업 다니고 할 시간이 없는 게 좀 슬프긴 해.
이게 진짜 약간 나도 지금은 이제 뭐 일본어 수업을 받고 싶은데 못 받는 상황이긴 하지만 학습이랑 같이 그렇게 가려면
Y'all don't even have enough time for your jobs.
수업을 하면은 두 달을
맞아.
계속 이렇게 되니까 막 의욕이 막 생기다가 뚝 떨어지고 생기다 뚝 떨어지고 하니까
이게 지금의 이 언어 수업 자체가 1순위가 아니다 보니까 자꾸 뒤로 밀려나다 보니까 계속 놓치게 되는 느낌? 형도 근데 수업 세게 다니지 않나?
다녀야지. 나는 딱 생각하는 게 그거야. 우리가 하는 일이 뭐냐? 춤추고 노래하고 외적인 것도 조금 갖고 와야 돼. 조금 많이 갖고 해야 돼. 조금 갖고서 그런데 많이 갖고 해야 되는데 근데 가장
I appreciate that him saying that so much because a lot of people really underestimate like I think people know how much pressure there is on looking good, but they underestimate how much like work and time and money it takes. Partially in that people will be like, oh my gosh, they're so like idyllically beautiful, whatever genetics. And it's like, no, they just spend a lot of time and money. If it was your literal job, you would also look fucking incredible all the time. Right? Like they, you know, have dermatologists and they have all of their routines and they have probably nutritionists and they have like tools and they get probably a certain amount of Botox and like it's a lot of work and money that is also probably a huge pain for most of them to deal with.
일단 기본 되는 게 춤, 노래, 그러니까 비주얼적으로 좀 잘 보여야 되는 그런 거기 때문에 그냥 그거는 약간 기본 베이스라고 생각하고 수업을 듣는 것 같아요.
참 보면 형도 관리 같은 거 참 열심히 하는 것 같아.
사실 막 가고 싶어서 하는 거 아니에요? 아니, 너무 재밌고.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Just being like, yeah, just a job, and it also fucking kind of sucks to do some of it. Right? Like, you know, I think even jobs that people love, there are parts that suck. I don't think I've ever met someone who just is like, yeah, I love all of my job and none of it is awful. I don't think that's the case. Some jobs are worse than others, but it usually has more to do with management, bosses, culture, etc., than it has to do with the job itself. Unless, like, the job itself is a really poor fit, right? Like, I would be uniquely terrible at being an artist because I have fucking aphantasia, right? It would be a uniquely bad job for me. But, like, for the most part, it's not really that jobs are bad. And in fact, at least, I don't know what the regions the studies have been done in. I think it might have been the US, but like at least within the US, something like 80% of people primarily leave bosses or management, not the job itself. So like every job has things you hate about doing it. And yeah, like if I were Lino, I'd be like, I fucking hate doing half this shit too. I decide it's worth it, but like it's not thrilling.
너무 피곤하고 그런 상황이니까 이게 막 내키지는 않는데
그럼에도 불구하고 하는 게 대단한 것 같아.
맞아. 우리 애들이 다 그래. 너도 그렇고 그래도 해야지. 그래도 해야지 어쩌겠어.
시간 약속이나.
I mean, you motherfuckers could definitely do less. Like, just to be super clear, though, these motherfuckers in particular do not have to do as much as they do. That is at least somewhat self-inflicted.
부지런한 데이서는 다른 멤버들이 이 부분을 못 이기지 않을까 생각해요. 그 정도 약간 계획이 있으면 계획 딴 대로 해야 되는 정도고 그런 부분은 진짜 저랑 완전 딱 잘 맞는 것 같아요. 그래서 뭔가 둘이 있을 때는 제가 그래서 조금 더 편함을 느끼는 것 같아요. 그래도 형은 뭔가 멤버들 중에서 진짜 조용히 제일 많이 하는 것 같고
그치, 진짜 조용하게 뭔가 많이 했어.
맞아. 몰랐는데 조용히 뭔가 하고 있어. 그런 거는 되게 긍정적인 것 같아. 하지만 너무 조용하게 있을 필요는 없다.
우리 반에 그냥 떠벌리고 다닐 필요는 없지 않았냐?
그래, 그것도 그렇긴 한데 형은 너무 조용히 하니까.
You can tell that Lee No is really comfortable in this relationship. Like in the way that he's like he's very relaxed in talking to IN, which is interesting. It's not to say that he's like he was like super rigid in his conversation with Hyunjin or Han or anything, but there's like a certain type of relaxation that feels like there's like some uniqueness to that bond that I'm just noticing is kind of interesting. And it could also just be like, I don't know, he recently ate lunch or something and he just like, or he recently stretched and he's just more fluid right now. So body language analysis is not like really a real thing. It just sort of, I'm getting that vibe.
조금 그래.
나에 대한 정보를 알고 있구나.
아니 그건 아니야.
아 그래?
그건 아닌데.
아니 그러니까 나에 대한 조금 더 알고 싶은 거 아니야?
아니 그런 건
누구보다
아니야.
빠르게 내 성격을 좀 커고 싶은 거 아니야? 지금?
아니 형이 요즘은 뭐 춤도 잘하고 노래도 잘하니까 그런 걸 보여줄 수 있는 뭔가를 좀 형도 여러 가지를 했으면
아
좋겠는데.
그런 식으로 이제 결과물을 보여줄 수 있는.
맞아. 뭔가 그게 조금 아쉬운 느낌?
나는 근데 왜 티를 안 내냐 하면은 막 이런 예를 들어서 기부라고 했을 때 그냥 굳이 그거 내 만족으로 하면 됐지라는 마인드에서 솔직히 난 회사도 모르게 남들이 알아
they have this like really nice dynamic where they're able to move between like sort of like prodding at each other and being sort of jerks to each other to like really quickly going back to the like actual topic at hand and sort of remembering where the conversation went and like where they left it off. This is not always the case with Skiz. They definitely have some members who, again, have a little bit more of that conversational ricochet, who have a little bit more of that inattentiveness, who like you're never really sure if they're going to come back to a point in the conversation unless they are with one of the members who's really good at keeping a conversation together. But these two are pretty good at like, oh, tangent. Okay, come back. Tangent. Okay, come back. And like those tangents are sort of playful and silly and fun. And then they come back to the point at hand and are able to sort of move on. And I really appreciate that because it drives me less fucking nuts to try to analyze and keep track of. I love Han so much. Watching his two kids' rooms, it makes my brain melt. But I also really like that IN here is sort of saying like, buddy, I wish that you'd take a fucking compliment. Essentially, or he's basically saying like, I can't compliment you enough because you don't talk about the shit that's compliment worthy enough. Like, have you considered being more open about things so that I can tell you to take a compliment? Because I can't even give you a compliment because I won't even know that you did shit until like 6 months later. So like, what if you like took some credit for doing things? God, me and IN, we're gonna win this battle together. He doesn't know who I am, but you know what, IN, I'm with you on this.
알아줘도 좋은 게 아니고 내가 하고 나는 알잖아.
그게 좋은 거야?
그럼 음흉 아니야?
Why would it sound shady? How did you just say something nice about yourself and then you were like, oh wait, is that a bad thing? Like he was like, no, I have a good personal reason is that like I don't really want to show off. There are things that I do for me and I'm my own motivator for them. Is there something wrong with that? No. What if you just said something nice about yourself that's just true about yourself? What if that's what just happened? I'm gonna fight Lino. That's what I'm getting from this.
내가 하는 거에 있어서 막 말하고 다니잖아. 뭔가 나에 대한 기대치가 생겨서 있잖아. 그게 난 되게 너무 싫거든. 사실 그 영어 수업 한다는 것도 나는 사실 말을 안 할라 했어. 근데 이제 그 뜨기자타가 그 인스타 라이브 하면서 얘기했더라고. 그래. 그래서 영어 수업 한다고 다들 말해버린 거야.
What IN just said is not what Lino just said. They just said... Like, they just communicated similar experiences, but actually for different reasons. And, like, Lino agreed, but... So this is actually... This is interesting because, you know, just watching the Lino and Hyunjin one, I sort of talked about when you can sort of stumble in the I want to bring up my own experience in a conversation thing. And while this isn't necessarily like a stumble, this is a place where you could. So I wanna go back and play that again.
좋은 게 아니고 내가 하고 나는 알잖아.
그게 좋은 거야?
그럼 음흉 아니야?
근데 나도 그건 어느 정도 이해가 돼.
So IN is saying, like, I kind of get that because I'm doing the same thing. But what he's about to prove is that it's correct that he seems to only kind of get it. Because what Lino just said is, like, it's enough that I do it for me.
내가 하는 거에 있어서 그렇게 막 말하고 다니잖아. 뭔가 나에 대한 그 기대치가 생긴 거 있잖아. 그치. 그게
And IN says... because that he doesn't tell people what he's doing because he doesn't want the expectations on him, right? He doesn't want to set a standard that he's then unable to meet. This is not necessarily actually about the standards of other people. This is usually when people feel this way. Not always. Not always, but very often when people feel this way, it's actually about the standards they're setting on themselves. It's a bit of a projection where they're projecting their own expectations of themselves onto other people. So when they tell people what they're doing or what they're working on, they become a lot more stressed out about it because now it has to be good. Right now, people know it's a thing. It's sort of the idea of like under promise, over deliver. If you never told anybody that you're working on something, then any competency at it is beating expectations. But if you tell people you're working on something, then you don't have control over what their expectations are, which means that for people who tend to be hyper ambitious or perfectionists or very dedicated to doing the things that they say they're going to do, but like maybe don't actually have the time to do those things, is that like those ideas can then make you be like, okay, so now I have to do this really, really well because I don't know what they're going to expect from me. I don't know what they're going to want from me. So I still have to over deliver. But since they didn't actually necessarily promise anything specific, except like I'm learning English, over delivery is excellence, right? So it's a little bit of a different, again, it's a similar behavior. We're both sort of avoiding telling people about things we're doing, but for different reasons. And that's again, I don't think this was like a huge major conversational misstep, but you know, it's just, I wanted to point that out because like just now in the other reaction, I was talking about a similar thing.
영어 한다는 것도 나는 사실 말을 안 할라 했어. 근데 이제 그 땡자타가 그 인스타 라이브 하면서 얘기했더라고. 아 그래? 그래서 영어 수업 한다고 다들 말해버린 거야. 그래서 아 이걸 또 내가 열심히 안 할 수가 없네. 이렇게 해버리더라고. 근데 그것도 좋은 것 같다. 그냥 일단 떠벌리고 거기 기대치를 충족하기 위해서 너가 억지로라도 열심히 하게 될 거 아니야. 아 그것도 그렇긴 한데. 그것도 그렇.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting way that sometimes that can, like, Lino took that very well, that there was this sort of like misalignment in that, but sometimes there can be a backfiring on the person trying to tell their own experience if you are misunderstanding or like not relating exactly, is that the other person might sort of redirect you or nudge you or disagree. That was a very kind way of disagreeing. Like that was a very, very gentle way of being like, that's not necessarily what I meant, is sort of the like the yes anding rather than the no but, right? Like he was sort of saying, yes, I understand what you're saying. And sometimes for things like that, I could actually see some value in that. Again, that sort of redirection of different thoughts. That's an interesting case study of a conversation to tear apart from a just like not argumentative. From overanalyzing specific words of a conversation, that was an interesting case study for me.
그래서 안 하는데? 장난이가? 이해는 돼. 아니 참 보면은 심리적으로 고정적이야. 너는 그래서 정말 불합리한 그런 상황이야. 그런 상황에서는 열심히 화를 내거든. 얼굴 시뻘개져가지고 갑자기 막 쓰는 거야. 맞아. 근데 그 화내는 기준치가 되게 높다 아니까 뭐라 해야 되지? 근데 남들에 비해서 화를 많이 안 내고 되게 긍정적으로 생각하려고 하는 것 같아. 나는 사실 나 자체가 되게 예민한 사람인데 이 내가 행동으로 인해서 다른 사람들까지 뭔가 그게 안 좋게 하고 있다.
내가 좀 더 긍정적이면 다른 사람들의 긍정도가 좀 더 올라가지 않을까 생각해요. 더 약간 긍정적으로
주변에 사람이 영향을 좀 끼치는 그게 되니까.
좀 힘든 상황에서도 그냥 많이 웃고 싶어. 그 마음인 것 같아.
어떻게라도 웃으라 그러잖아, 막 사람들.
맞아. 웃어줄 수 있는 사람 한 명 정도는 있어줘야 된다고 생각해. 내가 그냥
I wonder if this mentality either is part of why he like is much more affectionate with Lix, or if his relationship with Lix is part of what built this mentality. Because that feels like the type of sentiment that like you would get being around someone like Felix and seeing that type of strength in somebody else. Whether it is always the healthiest mindset, it's really contextual. You know, I think it generally is pretty healthy to say that you want to be able to find joy in even situations that are unjoyful. And it can also be really, really detrimental to yourself. It can be really self-detrimental. I don't think that this sounds like he's taking it to like a toxic positivity place. Obviously, when you take it that far, it can be. But this can be for a lot of people who tend towards people pleasing or parentification. They will lean into this idea of like, I just want to smile, or I just want to like make other people feel good even when I'm not feeling good, or like I don't want to bring other people's moods down. I don't want to be the reason that they're upset. And that doesn't usually go very well. Doesn't usually go very well. Again, it's one of those things that a lot of people, they're able to keep up. I'd say through a lot of their 20s. I usually see it fall apart sometime late 20s, early 30s, sometimes later than that. But it can wear on the soul pretty significantly.
웃겨줄 수 있는 사람 있잖아. 웃겨줄 수 있는 사람 있지. 아, 솔직히 형이랑 놀면 재밌긴 해. 맛있는 집을 너무 잘 알아. 사실 갔다 왔어? 아, 맞아. 아, 이 맛집 잘하는 형이어서 그게 너무 좋은 거야. 맛집 가자. 그 좋아도 리드 해주는 형이라서 좋은 거 같아. 리드 받는 성적이 좋거든. 뭐 예를 들면 서창빈이라든지 황현진이라든지 어딘가를 갈 때 리드하는 형이라서 되고. 그 생각이 해야 돼.
I need to start making check marks of when there's some like vaguely shit talking Binny in these, because poor guy just keeps getting called out by his dog sense.
좋다고 합니다. 응? 아, 그래 또 생각났다. 뭐 형이랑 재밌는 거. 항상 우리 둘이 같이 갔어. 맞네. 항상 우리 둘이 같이 갔어.
어쩌다 보니까 우리 둘이 계속 타고 갔네.
계속 같이 붙어왔어. 맨날 형이 그 운전하는 차 타고.
형, 내 안정을 잘 옆에서 할게. 잘 뭐 봐줄게 해놓고서 터널 들어가면은 다시 자니?
면허증이 없어가지고.
맞아. 야! 면 없다고.
God, I love listening to the two of them here tell stories. I like know exactly what's going on. It's so understandable.
점점 차가 줄어드는 거 있잖아. 계속 그쪽으로 막 픽스해서 가는데 난 그때 너무 무서웠다.
Oh, I hate that.
이명이 이제 운전을 딴지 얼마 안 됐을 때 아버지 차를 빌려와가지고 운전 연습을 해보겠다고 저랑 이제 한이 형이랑 데리고 나갔어요. 한강 갔다가 치킨을 먹고 이제 돌아가려고 하는데 갑자기 비가 폭우처럼 내려가지고 겁먹어가지고 무서웠죠. 어떡하냐 이러면서 어떡하지 이러면서 별로 떨면서 집으로 돌아갔던 기억이 있다.
우리 3살 차이나?
그렇지.
근데 3살 차이 나면 사실 학교 다닐 때 생각해보면 중학교 1학년, 고등학교 1학년이면 진짜 무서운 형이잖아.
맞아. 그리고
초등학교 때 중학교 무서운 형이야.
아, 그치.
그런 게 진짜 제일 무섭고
그때는 중학교 1학년 형도 무서워.
맞아.
3살 차이.
그래도 우리를 어려워하지 않고 우리를 편하게 대해주니까 정말 다 얘기해주니까 내가 형으로서도 이거 실수할 수 있는 건데 그런 건 아니고 그런 거 딱 찍어서 얘기해주고
이런 거 말할 수 있는 것도 항상 얘기하지만 형들이 다 편하게 해주니까 형이잖아. 약간 이런 게 많이 있어.
어. 꼰대적인 그게 없지.
아, 그게 좀 있어. 그리고 뭔가 형이 그건 있어. 이 막내 마음을 조금 잘 아는 느낌?
나 막내 되게 잘 알아.
그러니까 막내로 살아본 거잖아.
그럼.
댄서 분들 사이에서 이 막는 거잖아.
그렇지.
다 약간 무서워.
막 무섭진 않았어. 가끔 혼날 때 무서운데. 가끔 혼났나? 아무튼 혼날 때 무서웠는데 되게 좋았어. 막 퇴근하고 가면서 뭐 얘기도 하고 그럼.
근데 형 딱히 막 꼰대기 막 그게 싫어.
I sort of get this impression that like the way that Ian's Hyung's treated him probably this is like a guess. But an educated guess. It's an educated guess that he's probably probably one or both of his parents tended to be a little less on the authoritarian side and a little bit more on the like how do we support you in doing what you want to do side. Which considering how long he was a trainee and the fact that he was living in the dorms for most of that time, all of that time. I mean, it would have had to be all of that time, right? So he probably both grew up a little too fast, right? Because I think I said this in my Seungmin and IN reaction, maybe. But like, I think that we don't give IN enough credit for like, he was about the same age as Chan when he would have started training, when he moved out of his home and became a trainee. And obviously, you know, he lived much closer, but it's not like he lived super close. He just wasn't, you know, obviously a trainee for nearly as long. But he would have had to learn a lot of skills of how to be a functioning adult when he was quite young. But if he also felt supported by his closest people, which we have every reason to believe that he did based on like some of the things that he said about his parents, some of the things that we've seen of his parents, you know, it also could create a really strong atmosphere of him really preferring Hyungs who are supportive over authoritarian, while having a shocking amount of competency without necessarily having become deeply parentified. Maybe there was some parentification as he spent a little bit more time there and like, again, grew up probably a little bit too young and maybe would help out other trainees with figuring out how to do that. That's just speculation. But, you know, this very like, I'm not fearless, but like less, I don't want to say less respectful either, because that's not really what I mean. Having less overabundance of caution for his elders and gravitating towards Hyungs who would be very collaborative and supportive rather than like overbearing makes a lot of sense to me.
내가 낯을 너무 많이 맞았어가지고.
나도 그랬어. 처음 들었을 때 한 3개월 동안 진짜 조용히 있었어. 친구 없이. 낯을 가리는데 거기다 막내니까 다 형들이고 그러니까.
형들한테 한번 공부가 다가가기가 애매하다.
그게 쉽지 않았어.
그래서
Yeah, that would also teach him how to like just figure it out.
없어. 사실 너뿐만이 아니고 멤버들 다 곡성이 안 되진 않아. 알아서 잘할 것 같아. 현진이나 한이 사기도 나갈 것 같아.
생각보다 자기 조언이 또렷하고.
Yeah, like I know Ian once also almost joined a cult, but he was like a kid. But like, yeah, Hyunjin and Han just want to believe the best in people.
뭐 이렇게 봤을 때 한이랑 비교를 하자면 한이는 야 이게 좋다. 그러면 야형 진짜? 오 그럼 나도 그거 사야지 아니 나도 해야지. 이행이는 내가 그거 이제 보라 했을 때 아니야 난 이게 더 좋아서 이거 저걸로 이미 샀어. 이런 느낌이야. 굳이 하나 말하면은 그러니까 노력을 계속 하잖아 뭔가 남들이 알게 모르게건 노력을 하다가 한번 이렇게 좀 실패나 뭐 이런 걸 맛봤을 때 이렇게 번아웃이나 이런 게 오지 않을까 뭐 그런 걱정 정도. 근데 이거는 너뿐만이 아니라 똑같지. 내 스스로 그런 걱정도 있을 거고 다른 멤버들도 자기 일에 대해서 되게 열심히 하려고 하는데 어느 순간 이제
번아웃.
한번 딱 와버리면 근데 이게 막 일적인 번아웃 말고 그냥 인생에 대해서 번아웃이 올 때가 있으니까 와본 경험자로서 정말 아무것도 하기 싫다? 그런 거가 만약에
No, I keep almost having something to say and then wanting to read the next slide.
이겨냈으면
Okay. Yeah, so they are saying burnout. Throwback to my last reaction for when I split this up and put it on YouTube. They are saying the word burnout, and there is some delineation between occupational burnout, but I think I'm going to guess that clinically what Lino is talking about when he's talking about work burnout and work burnout hitting, what he's actually talking about is shame. And the difficult emotions that come with shame. And the reason I'm going to guess that is because of that idea of like when you hit a setback, again, this is all like, I would have to ask a lot of questions in a clinical setting to feel confident about this, but putting together a whole bunch of threads, having now watched a number of these and knowing these boys, right? Knowing these boys as well as I did parasocially, whatever. Shame is the feeling of that, like, usually comes up of like feeling that there is something that is not good enough about you. You know, that you're not good enough at something, whether that's about being a good enough person or like a good enough artist, a good enough whatever. There's something sort of core to your identity that you feel you are not competent enough in, right? So it's different from feeling ashamed due to a justified guilt, right? Like, I legitimately fucked up and now I feel ashamed, right? Shame is not necessarily ever really super justified. I mean, maybe if you really keep having justified guilt over and over and over again, but when it comes to like, I keep hitting roadblocks in my job, or whenever I hit a roadblock in my job, I start to feel burnout. That usually would say to me is that there is something about a perfectionist mindset that is causing some issues, or something in that there's like you're running into difficulties with feeling like you've failed at something, or, you know, running into frustrations with how long something is taking or something like that. And what that's triggering is like shame, maybe leading to anger, or shame leading to like helplessness or hopelessness or something like that, right? Again, that's not always going to be the case. There's a number of other reasons, but that's like my guess as to what Lino is saying here. That's what would make sense to me. That's the direction of questioning I would sort of go down with this. And when he's talking about burnout with life itself, and like, what are the things that when you really possibly over-identify with your job, like, and you start to feel a sense of shame, well, if you really, really identify on a personal level with your job and you start to feel a sense of shame around it, it's very, very difficult to not let that interfere with the rest of your life, right? Because now this is something that's triggering how you feel about who you are on a fundamental like identity level. I would not call like burnout with life itself burnout unless it is like an autistic burnout, which it might be with these boys, right? Like, we can be real here. Like,
내가 볼때 무조건 안올 수는 없는 것 같아.
아 맞아. 한 번쯤은 오게 되는 거 같아.
그러니까 언제든 올 거라는 거를 예상하고 너무 그렇게 실망하지 않았으면.
이건 되게 좋은 말이다.
actual burnout is not an inevitable conclusion of life. I just want to clarify that. Like, actual work burnout or actual autistic burnout, not an inevitable conclusion of life. Just saying.
아 예상하고.
최고와 최악을 생각.
그게 맞아 근데. 난 최고만 생각하거든.
I think that's a joke.
거기에다가 이걸 조금 노리조리 찾았던 순간 정도의 방안도 잘 생기니까
형이 뭔가 혼자서 스트레스 푸는 방법을 형이 너무 잘 아니까 형은 여행도 자주 가잖아 휴가 같은 거. 형만 해도.
I have every now and then seen people say that they think Lino is ADHD coded. That's a wild guess to me. There is nothing ADHD coded that I have seen about this man. And the amount of internal motivation he has, and like internal resources he has, that does not indicate a disability of dopamine to me.
방법이 있으니까 딱 걱정이 안 되는.
나 사실 어떻게 보면 멤버들 중에 가장 불안불안한 정신력을 갖고 있다고 생각했어 나는. 근데 지금 좀 많이 안정적으로 변했잖아. 그거를 찾는 것도 굉장히 중요한 것 같아. 다들 그런 것 같아. 뭔가 계속 불안정적이고 이렇게.
I do not have the mental bandwidth to get into this too deeply, but I think that what Lino is pointing out in IN right now is actually possibly a result of what we call post-traumatic growth. IN went through a very traumatizing experience very young. The way he, like, in particular, I would say he and Felix were traumatized throughout the survival show. Is pretty. I have a lot of feelings about it. But I think that what Lino is sort of referring to is like, okay, so IN, he said he's very sensitive. He did not have as many internal resources when he was younger. But he has learned how to take those experiences and create more stability from them. And that's what we refer to as post-traumatic growth, which is not to say that you need trauma to grow, but that when trauma happens, you are able to pull from it and then grow in ways that you may not have otherwise.
그런 걸 계속 본인 중에 느끼니까 난 그래서 지금 안정적이게 살려고 번아웃 이런 것도 아니고 나를 위해 어떤 결과가 나올 수 있는지 모르니까 최고의 상황은 스테이가 9천만 명.
That's too many people.
스테이가
진짜 최고와 최악이 진짜.
No, I'm going to say those are both worst case scenarios. 90 million, that's too many people. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with 90 million other people. I don't wanna. Okay, can we cap best case at like 30 million? That also seems like too many. You know what? Fuck it. Yeah, sure. 90 million. If I gotta deal with 30 million, I might as well deal with 90 million. Whatever.
격차가 너무 큰데? 근데 나쁘진 않다. 이게 맞긴 하겠다. 이렇게 저렇게 생각하면 우리가 술자리 같이 지내서 되게 오래되긴 했어. 맞아. 거의 같이 살 때는 그래도
가끔 맥주라도 한잔하면서
맞아. 같이.
이은이가 저랑 있으면 되게 진지한 얘기 좀 많이 하는 것 같아요. 고민이 있을 때 이렇게 얘기를 하거나 그러면은 이제 똑부러지게 대답을 해주는 것 같아요. 현실적으로 보고.
뭔가 고민했던 그런 부분들을 좀 많이 얘기하는 편이에요. 그런 고민 상담 같은 거 많이 했을 것 같아요. 생각보다. 예전에도 뭔가 많이 그런 거 있었어. 근데 이게 뭔가 리노 형한테 그런 말을 들으면은 조금 더 그 마음에 와닿는 그런 느낌이 있어. 그 따뜻한 말이 자주 있는 사람이 아니기 때문에 네, 따뜻한 말을 이렇게 단둘이 있을 때 듣게 되면 또 이게 확실히 조금 더 위로가 되는 것 같아요. 형은 단체로 있을 때랑 단둘이 있을 때랑 그 차이가 좀 커.
아,
단체로 있으면은 그 다정함이 잘 안 느껴질 때가 있는데
다른 애들이 너무 다정한 거 아니야?
그런가?
나의 다정함, 난 다정하게 하는데 남들이 더 다정하니까
이게
상대적으로
그게
이제 그건 아니야?
형만의 그 다정함이 있어. 이제 다 같이 있을 때 모르다가 단둘이 있으면 그게 딱 느껴.
Yeah, see, Ian, you're just used to all of your members literally like football piling on top of you, right? And like Lino stands in the corner like, nah, I'm not in that mess. And so now he feels cold and unforgiving because all of the rest of your members will not leave you the fuck alone.
그게 이제 나의 소중함을 너가 깨달았다는 소리구나. 이거 형 없어. 내 거야 이거. 너도 내 동생. 순이 동이 돌이 다음으로 이엔이 해줄게.
고양이야?
넌 여우야.
아 그렇구나.
형아 사랑합니다. 한마디 해봐라.
네, 사랑합니다.
왜.
생각보다 리노 형이 까칠한 고양이처럼 보이지만 단둘이 얘기해서 보면 그렇지 않습니다. 좋은 사람입니다.
가끔가다 되게 막내스러운 모먼트가 보일 때가 있는데 정말 귀엽거든요. 근데 그런 거 빼고는 쟤도 하나의 사람, 한 명의 사람으로서 되게 많이 성장했구나라고 느껴지는 것 같아요. 너가 나를 막 특별대우 할 때가 있었나 반대로?
아니, 나는 형들한테 특별대우 할 때가 없어.
Ian's like, y'all motherfuckers don't deserve that. Why would I do that?
없는 거.
I'm the maknae on top here. I'm Hyungnim.
아까도 보셨겠지만 이제 너가 영상도 다 됐어.
네?
형한테 사랑한다 하고
제가요?
막 형 생각난다 하고
제가요?
나는 녹화 다 됐음.
I like that Lino is taking Hyunjin's method of gaslighting Ian into loving him more.
고마워. 아, 네, 셀카 찍자.
네. 이리 와. 잡았어? 잡았네. 됐다. 가자.
이현아, 나다. 막내의 삶은 어떠냐? 형들이 지켜버리긴 해도 좋지? 다 알아. 막내 건강하게 크셔무라. 리.
생각해보니 형과 함께한 추억이 정말 많구나. 재밌는 일도 많았고. 비록 고양이가 아닌 난 여우지만 형도 내 형이니 고양이도 해보자.
Oh. That was really sweet. That was really cute. Okay. What's up in chat? A lot of things are up in chat. I, too, have concerns about Felix being pigeonholed into the Sunshine role. Mostly because I always have concerns about that. I do think that this is also partially about, like, what happens when young idols debut and, you know, you have a storyline that exists about you, right? This is a very reality TV type thing. I don't think, like, at this point, he's necessarily... I don't think we have any reasons to believe at this point that he's, like, forcing himself through it. The thing that I have biggest concerns about, and I will talk about this some in upcoming podcast episodes, but and I've talked about it a little bit already in I think my latest podcast episode, but is the way that people hold on to the same expectations and what they say or assume when you don't meet those expectations. So, like, when I always bring up airport pictures in this, when people start talking about like how worried they are about a member because they look sad in the airport. And it's like, one, they're in the airport surrounded by 4,000 people. I would not be happy in that airport either. But also, two, like, Felix kind of has a resting bitch face. And I think that sometimes people just like show Felix having a resting bitch face and go like, oh my God, is he okay? And it's like, bro just doesn't emote a lot, you know? Like, obviously I don't know what's going on in his head, but like, I don't really like the assumptions that people jump at when idols start changing from their sort of like original storyline. Yes, Roast Changbin might be a free space. I do feel like it's really easy to shit talk people who are great and will take things well and who you love. I still need to watch more episodes before I feel confident about the Lino autism claims. I just still don't feel like I have the data. He's weird. He's a weird guy, and he gets along with a bunch of people who seem pretty autistic. I do think that, like, IAN sort of saying that they're very similar in their, like, need to do things once they've said it. Like, that goes into my data piece. That's great. But I just need him to tell me more about what's going on in his head. It's so hard. It's so hard. No, I can't do more than 2 of these. That's what I've discovered. That's what I've discovered from today is that I can't do a job and do life and do multiple 2 kids rooms, do 3 2 kids rooms. That's too many 2 kids rooms. Because I'm not smart enough for that, to be honest. I can't think that much. Well, thank you for joining me and joining the chat. I guess I will, I think one of you I don't know. 2 squared, 2 min. Oh, I can't wait until 2 min, 2 kids room. I'm really excited for whenever 2 min happens. And it won't be in the next couple weeks, I don't think. But it will happen. I know it will. And I'm stoked. I want 2 kids room plus 1 back. I want trios again. Like, I really want next year for a trio again. I want reason to push my thruple supremacy agenda some more. God, that's a very specific Threads joke. Okay, I'm gonna go finish editing my Minsung reaction so that I can upload that so that people can stop asking me for it. I don't think they're gonna get what they want because a lot of it was me being like, but you know, see, you understand me. Yes. Any throuple, though. Hinibini, like, supremacy, yes, obviously, but, like, I also want to Minsung. And I want just any time, any place where there's a weird shipping war in fandom, we just change it to the throuple supremacy agenda. And it's fine. This is how we achieve world peace. Stay peace, at least, is... Okay, yeah, I'm leaving. It got too silly.